Good morning and welcome to Pointing at the Moon, our conversations here in the Peace Pagoda at the Providence Zen Center. This morning we're joined by Quinn JDPSN. Jason Quinn is a teacher out there in California, as well as one of the teachers for our online Sangha. Jason, thank you so much for joining us this morning.
Thank you for inviting me. This morning, actually.
Yes, well, we've got a nice little dusting of snow out there, some good lighting, and fresh coffee and water. What could possibly be missing? So, Jason, you're the first person that we've spoken to who has kind of straddled both worlds, and I'll let you know what I mean by that. So the first series of talks that we did were with Wen Sunim as well as Sunim, Zen master, both Sunims. After that, we had a conversation with Jan, who has been a layperson. You're the first person here who has done both monastic life as well as kind of lay life and has gone through both periods at different times in your life. Tell us a little bit more about that. What is your story and what kind of came out of going through that for you?
I would say it all led to life. I was living in Seattle. I was working as a recording engineer, doing music. I was married, and things were going great. I wasn't practicing at the time, but I was kind of building the dream that everyone wants to do. But as life appeared, things started falling apart. Lost my job, relationship was going sour. I was also a musician. I played music for many years, since I was 13. Started getting bad pains in my hand. Then I'm like, oh, what's going on here? Like all the things I created or built up to make me happy are disappearing. And then when I looked around, it wasn't just me, it was everybody. My parents got divorced, my friends were going through hard times. And what I saw was that all of us were trying to reach outside of ourselves for something to make us happy or content. But I realized that it doesn't work. So something's not right here. I wasn't quite sure what to do. So that led me to go crazy. And a friend recommended I see a therapist. Now she was a practitioner of some sorts, I'm not sure what. And she did some Western style psychotherapy. I saw her by myself for a few times. And then with my partner and I at the time, we started seeing her. And it was pretty clear that we should separate. And then I was going to visit her one more time to say goodbye and thank her for help. So when I was with her, she said, well, before you go, I want to ask you something. You keep saying that you are music and music is you. Yeah, of course. So what % of music is you? That's a weird question. It was interesting, right? I never heard that kind of question. So I just said 90%. 90%? Yeah, 90%. Then when you're not playing music, then what are you? And I was just froze. I froze. I couldn't answer. I was like, I've never heard that kind of question before. And she said, well, there's something that goes to the grocery store and cooks, goes to work. What is that thing? I said, don't know. She said, investigate that. The first thing I thought of was meditation. I couldn't say I've done meditation. I've done some sorts of meditation when I was like a teenager, nothing serious. But meditation was the first thing I thought of. And eventually I ended up at the Dharma Zen Center, that's what it was called back then in Seattle. And for the meditation instruction, the teacher said, Zen means, what are you? And once I heard that, I got to do this. I didn't care about the form. I didn't like the chanting, didn't like the bowing. No, I just wanted to sit. But that just really resonated. That's what I want to know. So that led me to sitting my first 3-month retreat in Korea after 6 months of practice.
Wow.
Yeah. Because it was that point of life where I didn't even know why we were living. Yeah. What are we doing? Everything we get, or what I noticed, if we grasp after something, we don't get it, and that doesn't feel good. Or we get these things, like I had, and they disappear. Or we get those things and we want it to be different. Only if it was a little bit different, or maybe I want more. So that's what I saw. So that's what led me to wonder, like, I wasn't even sure if I even wanted to be around. It's like, what's the point of living on this planet? So like I said, I'm going to try one thing, and that question, that Zen means what are you, really resonated. So that's what led me 6 months later to a 3-month retreat. After that, I came back, started training as a angel in Seattle, actually.
Really?
There was a monk living there.
Oh, how interesting.
So Zen Master De Kwang gave approval of this monk to train me.
Okay.
And then I went to Providence Zen Center for a summer retreat. Then I was planning on going back. But you can probably relate to this. During that summer retreat, they said, hey, our housemaster just left for Korea. Do you want a job? Like, yeah, sure.
So I'm curious, the training that you went through, was it done through a Kwanum school of Zen training, or was it through the Choge order, which you received your ordination through at the time? Because I understand there is a distinction between the two.
There is, and it was not. Again, living here at the Providence Zen Center with Zen Master De Kwang, there's a couple other monks, and I think I was the third Hangja. So it wasn't any kind of training.
Okay.
Show up in the Dharma room for practice. Here's the keys to the car. Go shopping, pick up this person.
Just do it.
That was it. I'm like, okay, I can do that.
So there's a couple of different elements in your story there which, kind of intrigue me. I'd like to ask more about. The kind of first one is when you were faced with this kind of real big kind of question and suffering at that point in your life. What am I doing? How am I supposed to live? We all experience that existential despair very deeply at some point in our lives. And I've seen a lot of people kind of deal with it differently. You turned to practice. There was some beneficial karma for you, or some correct situation set up where it kind of clicked and opened up something where you really threw yourself into it. Others I've seen do things very, very differently, even when they know that practice isn't here, hasn't been part of it. In the worst cases, I've seen, drinking, drug abuse, and that kind of thing. And other things, it's been the total opposite. I need to turn away from looking at my mind. Good Lord, the more I can numb myself, the better. And I always particularly remember worrying about this a lot. My teacher, Claudia Schipper, down there in Florida, I remember she once told me, Diego, you can't come between someone and their suffering. But I'm kind of curious, though, do you think is that sort of something that when people are experiencing that existential dread that you do we just throw up our hands and hope for the best, they find their way to the practice? Or do you think there's ways that we can kind of help and kind of guide people that might let them connect with that existential dread in a way that puts them outside of their mind or helps them grow from that in a way? Does that question make sense?
Yes, totally. Yeah. So I did the drinking part during that time because nothing made sense. And obviously drinking more when things started falling apart. But I saw that this made more difficulty and more suffering in my life. So I knew that didn't work. But I think what I relied on, it was the first time I had a very strong experience of this, is intuition. Now, people have a lot of ideas about that, but like something is not right. Even if you have everything and everything's going great, because I've talked to a lot of people in this kind of situation, something's not right. Like intuitively, like there's something they can't really make sense of. So I think trusting that intuition that something's not right. I think the Buddha had this too when he explored, out of the kingdom and saw the old person and the person who was sick, then the dead person. Whoa! He saw himself, right? So he knows something's not right. And then these questions appear. So what am I doing here? What am I? What's the purpose of all of this? So I think for me, because I was having kind of suicidal thoughts, I would say. I had that when I was a little bit But intuitively, I knew there's something else, and I wanted to try one more thing. So I did it.
And here you are.
Yeah, and I think everybody has that. Everybody has this, we see this kind of, your true nature is knocking on the door like, hello, it's me. Something's not right here, or wake up. Right?
And sometimes it starts knocking a little bit harder until the door forces open on its own.
I think some people are different. Some people perceive it early and just do something. Some people have to go through really bad experiences for them to wake up, right? Like losing everything and going, I mean, I guess I had my life, so that's good. But right? And then going, something's not right. So I think eventually it knocks on your door, and we can either notice it and take advantage of that, or we can keep ignoring it. That's the definition of ignorance, ignoring the truth. And then you'll end up on your deathbed going, what the hell is this all about?
What a wonderful way of summing up the human condition in about 2 seconds. Kwan San Boso for just a whole lot of us. So you've sat numerous 3-month retreats throughout your many decades of practice, both here in the US and in Korea. Buddhism, as a Western kind of practice, is still something that's kind of evolving and kind of being developed. It's relatively new here in the United States and in kind of our Western cultures. We still rely a lot on our kind of Korean cultural heritage for our own practice here, I found. I remember we were having a management team meeting, and Zen Master Tan Gong said, oh, we should do something special and make Korean food to a room with no Koreans in it.
Right. I do that too.
Right. So I'm curious, how do you see this practice evolving since you've done this practice both in Korea and here in the West? How has it changed since coming over here?
Maybe the forms have changed and are changing here in the US and other parts of the world. I never focused on that. I've always focused on the big question. Yeah. Why are we here? What's the purpose of all this? And what can I do to help this world? Yeah. That's always been the question for me. Even when I talk to my kids, one's 7 and one's 11, I don't mention the word Zen or Buddhism. We talk about life. Why is that person so mean to that other person? Why do countries fight each other, right? This is what they're thinking. So we talk about this. So that's what Buddhism is. That's what Zen is. And I think anybody can connect with that and use whatever form is appropriate. Maybe we'll use some Zen speech or some Buddhist speech. But if you're with a Christian, when I was originally talking to my mom, I was using a different language for her to talk about the human condition. Yeah, so anything we can use, but I never focus on that, and I don't think it's so important. I think what's more important is how are those forms helping us look at these questions.
Well, maybe that leans well into kind of this next point. One of the kind of unique things about you, Jason, among our teachers here is the way that you have very much leaned into using an online presence to spread the Dharma. You are instrumental and incredibly active in the online Sangha, which serves people all across the world. You have your own dedicated web page to share your practice and your teaching. Can you talk a little bit about maybe how the practice or maybe the taste of it or flavor of it, can you tell Ken has been my guiding teacher for about how maybe the flavor or the taste of it differs between this online format you're offering it in and the way it's been traditionally done here in these Zen centers, because this emergence of the online practice space has really bubbled since COVID and is definitely something still unique to us. So tell us a little bit about that.
I think for me it happened organically. So when I moved from the Providence Zen Center to Empty Gate Zen Center in Berkeley, it was actually Tam Jordan. I'm going to mention her name. She's out there.
Shout out to Tam.
I blame her for this because I was never interested in any kind of online things, social media, all that stuff. And she kept telling me, join Facebook, join Facebook. No, why would I want to join Facebook? And then she looked at me and said, it's not about you. And that really hit me. I was like, oh. Then it's not about me. What could I use? How can I use this media? So when I was at Empty Gate Zen Center, I believe we created our first Facebook page in 2009. We started a YouTube channel. We were live streaming back then. I was live streaming Wednesday night talks with Zen Master Bong Song, and I was doing a Sunday morning practice. And it was a different, they didn't have YouTube streaming back then, so I was using some kind of streaming service. And it was just something to try. I really didn't have any motivation in doing it or even any purpose or direction. I was just doing it. And then I met somebody in, I think it was Colombia, who was very interested in our school, the Quantum School of Zen, and didn't have any Zen center near them or teacher to connect with. And I said, why don't you join me for morning practice? So we used Skype maybe back then. So I get my Skype link, I think it was a link, I don't remember. Or they have to get on and you find them and invite them. Anyways, so we practiced meditation, we did the morning bell chant, and then Kendra, who's my wife now, wasn't back then, was also in Venezuela doing research. So she lived at the Cambridge Zen Center for 5 years, then started doing her PhD research in Venezuela. And she had a connection with Empty Gate. So she also like, I have no support here. I said, hey, why don't you join me for morning bell chant and sitting? So we started doing it. And then I started thinking, I wonder how many more people are out there that have no support. So this is really how it started. You know, Kathy Park and Bobby Rhodes, or Zen Master Song Hyung, were creating this international initiative for the Quantum School of Zen. And I was kind of like the online part because I had some experience. So originally the online Sangha was just for people in remote locations who had no Zen center or no connection with the teacher. Later, as time went on, we noticed there was people in different situations. Someone may live near a Zen center, but this one person I'm thinking of had 3 jobs, had to take care of their family. There's no way, but they could join one of the practices online. Then there was people with like a physical condition that couldn't make it to the Zen center. So it started to spread. Well, there's more people to reach. Then obviously when COVID hit, everything shut down. So I remember, by the way, Providence Zen Center, trying to get Providence Zen Center to do something, do some shit. Oh, the internet's not good. We don't have the equipment, or there's no one to do it.
And now look at us.
I mean, it's amazing. It's like, wait. Even Cambridge Zen Center, no one would do it. COVID hit, everybody did it, because there was no option. We couldn't come to the Zen Center, so how could we support our Sangha? So then everyone started streaming. So really that's how it developed. It developed organically for the need. But I have to say though, you know, since I've been in the online Sangha for a long time, that there's some aspects of the online Sangha that you just can't get from sitting in person.
Tell us more about that.
Yeah. First of all, I would say with Kongan interviews too, it's so this interviews with the teacher and student, there's this energy that you almost sense, just like when you're talking to a friend, you're sensing them, you're feeling them. There's something going on there that you sometimes can't get online. There's little things like that. But also, you know, if you're practicing, let's say, sitting a retreat online, I've seen people do interesting things. During sitting, like we're all sitting together and then they pick up their cup. You know, like, you can't do that. Can you do that at Kilche or a retreat here? Probably. I mean, you could.
I invite you to try and see how it goes.
The head Dharma teacher or somebody will say something.
Exactly, yes.
And so there's that aspect of it. That person moving around next to you who's driving you crazy is like, quit moving. Or they're breathing too heavy. You know, that you don't really get with the online aspect. And that's a beautiful thing because it's that together action. And seeing your own mind clearly. Why is this person's breathing bothering me so much? Or this person moving? It's something that's missing online. So I would say though, again, for people who are on these kind of situations, there's no choice, right? It's better than practicing alone because you get that support from the worldwide Sangha. During the practice or retreats, you also get that support with sitting together.
So it's an interesting balance that this new online format kind of invites for us as practitioners, because on the one hand, as you outlined, we're able to provide this practice and support to people who would otherwise be totally out of reach to it, inaccessible, and God knows that's a deeply compassionate, wonderful thing to do. But on the other hand, and I think this is some of the concerns and fear of people who may look at the online format of doing practice, is that it may displace doing practice in a physical Zen center like this. God knows Westerners love their screens and love convenience.
Yeah, that's true.
Are there things that you do to, well, first of all, what would you say to that kind of concern if you think that's a valid concern to begin with?
I think I've noticed it, and I'm talking to some of the teachers about just noticing these things. Because, you know, people consider a 3-month retreat to escape their life, to get away from it all, and to hide. Except when the retreat ends, then they're like, ooh! Right? So we all have that kind of quality. So I think it's important for not just the teachers, but people in the Sangha to really care for each other and look out for each other for these things. But yeah, we're always looking at these kinds of things and just being sure, like, because when I meet a person, I don't have any idea for them what to do.
Sure.
I'm like, go to Online Sangha, go to MP Zen Center,
Sure.
go to Providence. No, I just see what their situation is, talk to them about it, and see what's the best fit for them. You know, and then go there. But yeah, we have seen some people, like, I know one person who didn't like their guiding teacher at their Zen Center, so they wanted to practice in Online Sangha.
Interesting situation.
Yeah, it's not good or bad, but it has a natural result. So yeah, you know, we notice it, and then we talk about it.
Where do you see the Online Sangha kind of growing from here, both for the people who practice in it, as well as just it as an organization in itself?
It's really, before when we started, it was Kathy Park, JDPSN, and myself. Now there's all these teachers, and there's all these programs appearing that I don't even know about. So I believe I was talking to Nancy Hedgepath, JDPSN, talking about some program. I didn't even know that was happening. Like, it's just growing by itself as more people get involved. I'm interested in the last few years, I've been interested in this, is people who've been in the Online Sangha since the beginning, for example. I'm thinking of one person in mind, is kind of inspiring them to set up their own practice or meditation group where they live. Doesn't have to be a formal Zen center or anything like that. Just invite some neighbors or your friends into your house. And some people are doing that.
Wow.
And it looks like there might be some, who knows, Zen centers appearing out of this. That's really where I see it going.
What an interesting idea. These little flowers kind of blooming all around just from the online.
And then for some,
together.
It's only online because of their situation or
Well, thank you so much for the work that you've been doing with it. It's been a great asset. Let's maybe switch tracks a little bit, because God knows we could spend all day talking about the impact online may have or may have not on practice, and should we have a TikTok one day, and that sort of stuff. You've written a book, No Nonsense Zen. I've noticed a lot of our teachers have, maybe not a lot, but it is not abnormal for Popsanims and above in our school to write or release a book or something. I'm thinking of, you know, Zen Master Wu Kwong, Richard Schrobe. He has a number of books out there. I remember our first Jita Popsanim down in Florida, and before she passed away, she wrote about her solo retreat and that
Zen
kind
Master
of thing.
Banyan.
Yes. So what inspired you to add to that growing collection?
I'm completely the opposite, or maybe very different from the other people. First of all, I hate writing. I'm not a writer. I don't mind talking to people. That's fine. My wife, however, she's a writer. Finished her PhD. She loves to write. She still just writes for fun. I hate writing. So obviously when I created my YouTube channel, started the website, and a little blog, you know, mostly I was transcribing videos. I had a transcriber taking the words, and I would just clean it up and just put it in the blog. So I don't have to write it. So I just put it in there. I was approached by a publishing company who does a lot of stuff. They're based out of the Bay Area, and they do a lot of stuff. Practice, health, all kinds of different things. And they're very unique because what they do is they have some algorithm that searches the internet to see what people are asking.
Interesting.
Then seeing what content is available, right, to answer these things.
Okay.
And if it's a low or outdated, they create content. So what they do is they create an outline. So let's kind of rewind a little bit. So they approached me and said, hey, we saw your website. We like what you do. I think you would be a good fit. Do you want to write a book? And I said, no, thanks. Thanks for the offer, though. And then he said, well, can you just hear us out? Maybe just talk about it? I said, all right, I'll talk to you about it. Then when I heard that when I was talking to them, I got interested because first there was an outline. They had 4 parts, so like everything's organized. And it was a Q&A based book. They decided all of this.
Oh, interesting.
In fact, the cover of the book was decided by an algorithm. I'm not kidding. They know what colors pop out. I did a test, like if you type in, I don't know, maybe Zen books. I only did this once. And you go down and you see this book, it just pops out. I wouldn't have picked these colors or fonts or anything myself.
Sure. The
algorithm chose it. So even the editor said, we don't have no choice about this. We can like alter a few things, but this is what the color is going to be. I was like, okay.
That's so interesting.
Yeah. And then they said, well, we do, so it's a Q&A based book. We have some questions. Now, and I was then thinking in my head, I love answering questions. I love Q&A. I love the aliveness. So that's what got me interested. And they already had some questions that people were asking, you know, in the internet. And then they said, from your experience of the 25 years, whatever, maybe you can add some of these questions. So that's what helped me or inspired me to do it. So
I'm fascinated by this idea of a company looking at, okay, what will make us a profit? A Zen book that directly answers these questions. That guy is the one who will go ahead and write it for us. That's fascinating.
I mean, it sounded a little shady at first. It was like, and they want to pump it out. I think I had 8 weeks or something to finish this.
8 weeks, wow.
Something like that. It was crazy.
Wow.
It wasn't very long, and it was difficult because I don't know how to write. But then I started looking at their content and, you know, even their kind of philosophy behind the company. It was really, I had a bunch of different editors. One was called, I forgot what they do, a sensitivity editor, where they read the book, not the correct grammar and stuff like that, but just make sure that it's inclusive and things like that. It's like, okay, these
look for microaggressions and yeah.
So this is where I have to plug my wife, Kendra.
Kendra, thank you.
So I would kind of create something, and she would just make it sound like English, and then that would go to the editor. Each part. So there's 4 parts. So I had have to write one part, send it to the editor. He would make his corrections, and I would change it. And that's how it appeared.
Did you pick the title?
I did not.
No.
Algorithm picked the title. I'm not joking. I don't know how this thing works, but that's how they do it.
How interesting.
They had a book before called No Nonsense Buddhism for Beginners.
The algorithm really likes no nonsense in the title, I suppose.
Yeah. Because they saw that what they found from the research, there's people interested in Zen but found it maybe too esoteric or maybe like outdated, like very outdated, like it didn't have any connection to everyday life. That's why they liked my blog. That's why I like them, because they said, we just want it simple, like very simple, and how it connects to people's lives. And I said, I'll do it.
So maybe as a quick sideline, based on your experience through this very interesting way of putting a book together, would you recommend other teachers if this company was looking to go through them as well? Would you work with them again? I'm very curious because I've never heard of a book being done like this before.
After I finished the book, they sent me some copies. I was giving them out. And then I get an email from them. Hey, we have another book idea. Do you want to write it? And I said, absolutely not. Yeah, it's not for me. Maybe for some people it would be, but not for me. And I would just say, does it make sense for you? And like, I'm not the type of person that sits down and comes up with a concept and have like this, you know, story going along, an interesting thing. I don't have that. I like to tell stories, but I just not in writing.
How interesting.
Yeah, where, you know, this was a different format. These are questions. Just answer them. I know how to do that. So for me, it was a perfect fit. Maybe for some, it was not.
Yeah, well, thank you for sharing your wisdom, and thank this algorithm, I suppose, for giving you the structure to be able to do so with a broader audience. You've sat many Kyolches throughout your life. Tell me, what is it like, the experience of sitting Kyolche, and how is it different for you now that you're up there leading a retreat?
Yeah, so this morning we were sitting meditation, and right now I'm talking to you. That's what I realized later. One thing about being a teacher, especially for like 1-day to 3-day retreats, is you're in the interview room most of the time, and you're not sitting. So at first I was, why am I not sitting so much? Why am I spending so much time in the interview room? But the one thing I learned from doing these 3-month retreats and 3-day retreats, 1-day retreats, is following the schedule. In fact, that was a advice my teacher gave me when I did my first solo retreat. Just follow the schedule. Don't be a hero.
I really like that phrase.
I learned that during that retreat. So, you know, for this retreat here up at Kyolche, the monastery, we get up at 4:30 a.m. That's early. A lot of people don't like to get up that early. And a lot of people don't like to do the bowing. Or maybe they don't like the chanting. Maybe they just want to sit more. Maybe they don't want to do yoga at night. We didn't have yoga back when I was sitting Kyolche. I quite enjoy it. I think it's quite helpful. But there's something about, I don't want to do this, or I don't like this. That's normal for all of us. It appears in every human being. But if we follow the schedule, meaning we just show up, and even though the like or dislike is there, or I want, I don't want, we just show up and do it. So I think doing that, having the experience of doing that, helped me as a teacher. So before I was sitting most of the day, and now I'm talking. Except for Kilche, which I get little breaks here, on certain days. So really, I don't think there's much difference. People ask me this too, what's the difference between when you were a monk and when you were a layperson? This is interesting too, and I thought about it, I was like, wow, at the Zen Center, I did shopping, I did the cooking, I picked up people. It's like, wow, I'm doing that now. I'm shopping, I'm cooking, I'm picking up the kids. It's like, there's really no difference. Meaning there's something appearing in front of us. We might have some idea or view about it, that's okay. Can we see through it to show up intimately and do something helpful?
And maybe the additional what's the word I'm looking for? Maybe the additional little, you can sneak down and have a cup of coffee as a teacher.
See, I don't even do that.
Oh, look at you go!
I don't do that.
Thank you for your coffee restraint.
I have nothing against it. In Empty Gate, they have coffee. I drink the coffee. This is just how I like to do it, because I want to be there with everyone too. If they don't have coffee, then I'm not going to have coffee. Now they do have green tea. I'll drink green tea. So I just do that not to be like, oh yeah, like hardcore, but I just want to be with everyone else and experience what they're experiencing.
Yeah, well, thank you. The Quantum School of Zen is in such an interesting spot where this first kind of generation of teachers that learned directly under Daesan Sanim is passing on the torch, and we're starting to come into new generations of Dharma teachers and senior Dharma teachers and Pope Sanims who they had never met Daesan Sanim. For some of them, he is the founder and the teacher, but he is another dead Zen master. And the category of the wisdom being passed down on the ages. What do you hope for from this next generation of upcoming teachers and students, and as we continue to pass on Daesan Sanim's teachings?
I would say not to lose the bone. The forms may change, the style may change, the practice may change, but really the bone. Why are we here? Why is there human suffering? What does it mean to be a human being? If we really focus on that and use the forms to support that and to express it, then we're in good shape. But if we're worried about if we're going to wear robes or not, or should we do a different color, should we make the chants all in English, we're missing the point.
I remember once on way to a retreat, an argument between two Dharma teachers I deeply love on whether or not there should be a fork in the utensils.
That's good, right?
So thank you so much for kind of coming and talking with me this morning. And maybe just to give you the last word, if you had any last words of wisdom or encouragement for your students and for anyone who might be watching this, what would you share with them?
I would say, remember these two things in every moment of your life, whether you're practicing Zen, if you're going to a church, or if you're changing a diaper. What is happening in this moment right now, and how can I offer help? That's it.
Thank you, Pope Sanim.
You're welcome. Thank you.
And thank you for listening and joining us for our conversations here in the Peace Pagoda. If you'd like to support us, you can donate online through providencezen.org. You can also see our entire practice schedule online. Our practice is open every day of the week to anyone who wants to come. So come join us, experience for yourself what we're talking about here. And thank you again.